Marvel fans, it's your mans with the plan that you sometimes can't stand. Armand here for E equals MCU, and I want to give my Ms. Marvel quick breakdown for episode 2, Crushed. Now, let's get into this episode. Like I said, I don't like to recount necessarily the episodes, but just like to highlight a few things and some things that I noticed. One thing that I'll say off the bat, and I love this show, the production value and everything. With these Disney Plus shows, you can sometimes see in between the lines of production. And what I mean by that is, like with the Star Wars show, they all have the same feel because they use that stagecraft or whatever they call it, the technology thing. So far, all of the Star Wars shows kind of feel the same. Like you can kind of see through the production of it to an extent. Like they all feel like, I don't know, something about them, like they're all the same with the stagecraft thing. I know Marvel uses it, but not quite as much. And in this show, in Ms. Marvel, I don't know if they use it at all, honestly. But there is something that stood out to me, and this is just like me being nitpicky because it takes me out of the show. But they shoot these shows in Atlanta, and it's supposed to be in New Jersey, and that's fine. And they do a pretty good job with everything. But on the scenes in where she's going through her superhero montage, so to speak, with Bruno, they have the background cityscape is Atlanta. And I don't know if that's something that, some people don't notice. I know I've been to Atlanta a lot. So to me, it stands out. I know what Atlanta's skyline looks like. So when they're on top of the building and they're showing the buildings in the background, that's Atlanta's skyline. And it just throws me out of it every time. They probably think people wouldn't notice because it's New York. There's buildings everywhere. But, New York, New Jersey. But that's just me nitpicking, kind of, that was something that just kind of took me out of it. So if you ever, when you're watching that scene, you ever look at it, you'll notice, a couple buildings in the background, and you will definitely notice that's Atlanta. Anyways, but on to the episode itself. I love this episode. Great twists and turns. We get introduced to Cameron, and it's making all sense. Now, the dynamic between, when you go back and think about it and look at it when he's introduced, and it does kind of seem like he's definitely has a connection with her. Now you see that was all not necessarily forced or fake, but it was intentional. So that's something that what they're doing with this show and how they are playing this, where I foresee this going. But first, let me say this. And I'm rambling here because I'm just kind of going off the top. But him being introduced and then like kind of being like the love interest and everything, I think it played very well. And then throughout the episode, she's getting these visions, premonitions, which, by the way, I don't know if you noticed the way they shot that, the way the premonitions come in, it's almost like she's unlocking something. And I said this when I saw the trailer, because I saw some of those scenes in the trailer. That mist and that smoke that she's kind of coming out of looks like, I think it represents the Terrigen Mist. It's weird because I think they're doing a different take on her powers than in the comic, but they're also staying kind of true to it at heart, I guess, in how they are doing it. Like the story isn't as forward as is in the comic. They almost like tried to give her a little bit more depth in it, and you can see where this is going with her family lineage being tied to it. But I'm more and more starting to think that her family is Inhuman, and they're going to explain the whole Inhuman thing as just part of being part of her family, and that bangle unlocks their power or something. Or like I said, I think it has Terrigen Mist in it, because when she's seeing the vision of the aunt or the great grandmother, I'm not even really sure the relation there family wise, but they're explaining it throughout the episode when she's talking to the Illuminatis or Auntie Illuminatis. when she sees that family member, I just notice it just comes through with the mist and everything. I kind of feel like that's representative of the Terrigen Mist. Now, throughout the episode, when they're building up this twist and she runs into the DODC, at the end when he gets in and he says, "This is my mom," that's what made me think, okay, they're all, this is a family thing. And I want to say, when the Illuminantes was talking and they said that, they brought a great deal of shame to the family, to her mom, what the grandmother did or the great grandmother did and everything. I want to say that they said something about her trying to protect her family or something. I think it has to do with the Inhumans, and I think they're going to go into that story about the Inhumans and the Inhuman relationship and how it ties into her show. But I think that's going to be done at a later point. I think they're setting the seeds for it. It kind of I wonder because it's so much like being a mutant, and where it is part of your DNA, so to speak, and it's unlocked. I just wonder how they're going to differentiate Inhumans and mutants if they do introduce both of them, which it looks like they are doing. So I just wonder what the difference is going to be, or how they're going to explain the difference to make it clear to the audience what the difference is. But with that said, I thought that was one of the coolest moments of this episode, was him being revealed to be her family member, or I think it would be cousin. And the reason why that's funny to me is because earlier in the episode, when she's with him at the restaurant and they run into her brother, they come up with this whole lie thing, like Kamala doesn't know. She's like, "This is our cousin," and then he goes on and he's like, kind of going off the top about it with her, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm the cousin through marriage," and blah 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 blah. And the brother's trying to remember, and he's just like, he's like, "Is he our cousin, like me and your cousin?" And he's looking at him like all weird and stuff. And at the time, you think it's just a joke. You think it's funny because he goes, "Oh, I remember you. I remember you. We used to call you Hamron, the Cameron.com," or whatever he said. When he says that at the time you're first watching this, you're thinking, yeah, man, he don't know what he's talking about. But then as the end is revealed, it's like, oh no, maybe he does remember him, and maybe he was a family member that he remembered that they hadn't seen in like 10 years or whatever the case may be. And maybe he does have memory of this kid, and just, he couldn't quite put it together of who he really was related to. I thought that was a fun little that to me is, it shows how good the writing is for this show. To me, and even though I pointed out the production as far as with the skyline and everything, that's nothing, that's nitpicky, because on all phases of this of television production and just movie production, I feel like they're knocking it out of the park. I feel like the writing is really good, the directing and the direction and the characters are really good and well developed, and it's just well written, and the production value of it is it's really well done. In my opinion, it's the best thing they've done since WandaVision, on all scales as far as that goes. Now with WandaVision as a high concept TV show, so a lot of the production value was kind of masked in the different themes they were going for and what they were trying to accomplish with the show. This one's a little bit more straightforward. It's not all of that, but this is perfect for Disney Plus. I really think they need to do a season 2, if depending on where they're going with the story. I do think they need to do a season 2 for this. This is something that's like perfectly tailor made for Disney Plus. So now with that said, there were we got to dive into a lot of the characters, like Nakia, her whole thing with getting the shoe stolen, which I am kind of wondering who the shoe thief is and what that has to, what that is going to lead to. But we kind of got to dive into her character. You got to see Bruno being, really jealous of Cameron coming onto the scene and, calling him Billy or Brian or whatever, like he didn't know his name, like he did that on purpose. I don't know, they're really just fleshing out the Kamala Khan's universe very well. So I'm enjoying like every bit of this show right now at this point. I can't, and it's one of those shows like I can't wait to see how the story unfolds next week. and what's going to be introduced next week into the show. And I haven't really felt that way since, even with Loki, I didn't feel that way since Loki, but specifically, WandaVision, like Hawkeye and Falcon and Winter Soldier, and the shows, even with Moon Knight, they didn't really have that. They didn't capture it that way. So I think they're doing something special right now, and I think they got something pretty special going on with this. I don't understand and don't know why they didn't do a red carpet, or why the red carpet wasn't available on streaming. That still surprises me. But they did release, footage of it, as you can see here on the screen, at a later point. But I don't know why they didn't have it live like they did with everything else. So, but whatever the reason is, trying to make sure I didn't miss anything else from this episode that I just wanted to point out. I think that's it. I mean, the mom's relationship and Kamala's relationship is taking a surprising turn. I was pretty shocked about that. And then, like, you can see how the dad's going to come in and play with it. You can see how it's a close community. Like when they went to the mosque and everything, you can kind of see how close of a community it all is, and kind of get a feel for it from that standpoint as well. I think that's very, very good universe building, and I think it makes everybody more of a real person. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just a show with people doing dialogue. Like, it makes you a little bit more invested in every character that you're introduced to. So, I mean, that's all I got, guys, as far as a take on this week's episode. Let me know if I missed anything that you wanted to go over, or had any thoughts about. Let me know down in the comment section what you guys thought of the episode and how you feel about the series so far. And with that being said, I am out. This is Armand for E=MCU, Ms. Marvel episode 2. Peace.